The flashing lights. The ringing slot machines. The thick smoke wrapping around me like a noose. And that damn number, $10 million. It just sat there on the screen like it meant nothing. But it meant everything. 10 million. Jackpot. Applause. Strangers screaming. Security surrounding me. And me frozen, sweating, smiling like an idiot, completely unaware that I'd just detonated the bomb that would blow my entire life apart. My name's Kyle Thornton. I'm 38, originally from a no-name town in Nevada, and before all this madness, I worked a dead-end job at a warehouse in Phoenix. Lifting, stacking, sweating my soul away for $18.25 an hour. I had nothing. No family. No partner. No real future. Gambling was just a weekend distraction for me. A way to feel like I could be someone else. Like I wasn't just another guy getting crushed by life. But I never bet big. Never believed I'd win. Until that one night at Mirage Casino, Las Vegas. It started like every other pathetic trip. I took the Greyhound. I booked the cheapest room possible. I ate gas station sandwiches and counted every quarter. But something was off that night. There was this pull. Like I was supposed to be there. I walked past the poker tables, the blackjack pits, even the roulette wheels, my usual poison, and for some reason I stopped at a slot machine. Bright red. Golden trim. A tacky-ass name, Gold Rush Megabucks. I never played slots. They're rigged, right? A total scam. But I swear, my hand moved on its own. I slipped in my last $100. Max bet. 3 spins. The first spin, nothing. The second, 2 gold bars, 1-7. The third spin changed everything. Ding 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 ding. Sirens. Bells. People yelling. The machine started flashing like a damn spaceship. And on the screen. Jackpot won. $10 million. I thought it was broken. Or a joke. Until the floor manager came running, radio screaming, security locking the area down. They sat me down, gave me water, started explaining taxes, transfers, options. I wasn't even hearing them. All I could think was, this is it. I made it. I'm free. I called in sick the next morning. Then I called in rich. And then I called my boss and told him to go F***ck himself. I wasn't Kyle the warehouse guy anymore. I was Kyle the millionaire. And I was about to find out just how dangerous that could be. The first thing I did when the money hit my account? I stared at it for 6 straight hours. $10 million. Just sitting there. Numbers on a screen that made me feel like I'd finally cracked the code to life. I wasn't supposed to be that guy. The winner. The lucky bastard. But there it was. And like a true idiot, I let it go to my head immediately. The next day, I walked into a Cadillac dealership in Scottsdale wearing cargo shorts, sunglasses, and a fake Rolex I bought 2 years ago on Craigslist. Sales guys ignored me until I dropped my debit card on the table and said, "Run the most expensive one you've got." I drove off the lot in a black Escalade I didn't even know how to operate properly. The damn thing had so many buttons I accidentally turned on the seat massage while trying to roll down the window. But I didn't care. I felt untouchable. Within a week, I was in LA living in a $7,500 a month penthouse I found through some influencer's Instagram page. The view? Unbelievable. The neighbors? Even worse. Everyone smelled like privilege and coke. But I was one of them now. I was the rich guy in the elevator. The guy who tipped bartenders with hundreds and said, "Keep it." And people noticed. Especially her. Her name was Selena. Think, glossy lips, waist-length hair, heels that cost more than my old car, and a stare that made you forget your name. She walked up to me at a club in West Hollywood like she already knew I had money. "You new here?" she asked, leaning close enough for her perfume to choke me. "Kind of," I said. "Just moved in." "Let me guess, crypto, tech, or you sold an app to Google?" "Casino," I replied. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She didn't care about how I'd made it. Just that I had it. That was all that mattered in her world. And I was too drunk on the thrill to care. By the end of the night, she was in my penthouse wrapped in silk sheets, calling me baby like we'd known each other for years. And by the end of the week, we were inseparable. Brunches, beach trips, designer shopping, my card never left her hand. And I didn't mind. I told myself I was finally living. I told myself this was what happiness looked like. But deep down, something already felt off. Something didn't sit right. The way people looked at me. Like I was just a wallet in human form. The way my phone never stopped ringing, old coworkers, random cousins, even an ex from high school I hadn't talked to in 13 years. Everyone wanted something. And I kept giving it. Because for the first time in my life I could. But the higher I climbed, the more I felt the ground shifting beneath me. The more I laughed, the more fake it sounded. The more I bought, the emptier I felt. And the thing about fast money? It burns faster than you think. It didn't take long for my life to turn into a damn movie montage, except instead of inspirational music and meaningful glances, it was just champagne foam, blackout nights, and strangers who knew my name before I said it. I was on private jets I didn't book, invited to parties I didn't understand, popping bottles I didn't even like just to look like I belonged. And Selena? She was thriving. She moved in without even asking. One day she just showed up with 6 Louis Vuitton suitcases and said, "This closet's mine now." I laughed like it was cute, like this was normal. But she didn't unpack love, she unpacked control. At first, it was little things. She'd order clothes using my card and say it was our money. She started redecorating the penthouse without telling me. $9,000 rugs, $12,000 paintings, a crystal vase worth more than my entire childhood. I'd ask about it and she'd roll her eyes like I was being cheap. "You're a millionaire now, Kyle. Stop thinking poor." She said that a lot. Stop thinking poor. And I started believing her. So I stopped asking questions. I stopped budgeting. I stopped thinking. I was bleeding money, but I didn't feel it. That's the curse of having too much. You forget what anything is really worth. Everything's just a swipe, a click, a delivery guy asking, "Where should I set the furniture, sir?" And then came the entourage. Selena's friends. Let me be clear, these people weren't friends. They were parasites. Leeches. Designer-clad vampires that sucked the life out of me one brunch at a time. They showed up with empty hands and left with full shopping bags. And every time I got uncomfortable, Selena would whisper in my ear, "Relax, babe. They're just having fun." Yeah, with my damn money. But I didn't push back. I wanted her to like me. I wanted all of them to think I was cool, rich, important. It's pathetic when I say it now. I know that. But when you grow up dirt poor, like really poor, like choosing between dinner and gas poor, you don't just want money. You want validation. You want to prove you're not worthless. That you're finally somebody. And money did that. For a while. Until the fear crept in. Late at night, when the house was quiet and Selena was passed out with a bottle of rose in her hand, I'd sit on the balcony and look out over LA, heart racing like I was being hunted. Because deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't rich. I was just a broke guy with rich guy money. And I had no idea how to keep it. But I was about to learn the hard way. It hit me one morning in the worst way possible. I woke up to yelling. Not a little argument. Full-on screaming. I stumbled out of bed, groggy, hungover, my mouth tasting like regret and stale whiskey. Selena was in the living room, barefoot, hair wild, mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint, throwing a lamp at the wall. Glass exploded. Shards everywhere. Standing across from her was a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, tanned, ripped like he lived at the gym and fed on pure protein powder. And the way they were looking at each other? It wasn't hatred. It was history. Who the F***CK is this? I shouted, still half dreaming, half raging. Selena turned to me like I just stepped into a scene I didn't belong in. "This is Jace, my ex," she said with this weird calm in her voice, like I should have known. Jace didn't even flinch. "Just came to get my stuff," he muttered, looking straight at me. "Didn't know she'd be here? Still living in my robe, huh, babe?" And then it all unraveled. Turns out, Selena wasn't some random girl I'd met by fate. She was a seasoned grifter. A pro. A manipulator with lashes and lip gloss. She'd done this before, moved in with rich guys, milked them dry, and walked away like nothing ever happened. Jace was her last victim. He didn't warn me. He didn't try to save me. He just smirked, grabbed a duffel bag, and walked out like a ghost who'd already seen how the story ends. I stood there, fists clenched, trying not to scream. "Is that true?" I asked her, my voice cracking in the middle like a broken string. Selena rolled her eyes like I was the dumbest man alive. "So what if it is?" she snapped. "You think I'd be with you if you were still working in King warehouse?" My chest caved in. She didn't even try to lie. She just laid it bare, brutal, raw, unapologetic. Everything we had wasn't real. The dinners. The laughs. The nights wrapped around each other like we were in a Nicholas Sparks movie. All of it? A performance. A play. And I was the fool clapping in the front row, too drunk on attention to notice the strings. I told her to get out. She laughed in my face. "You think this is your place?" she spat. "You paid for it with money you don't even understand. You wouldn't last 6 months without me." She was right about one thing. I didn't understand the money. And I was starting to realize just how little control I actually had. But I made her leave anyway, packed her stuff, called security, changed the locks. Then I sat on the floor of my giant, empty penthouse. surrounded by luxury furniture and silence, and started shaking. I had $10 million, and I'd never felt poorer. I stopped answering calls after that, shut off the notifications, ghosted everyone, even blocked my own damn mother's number, not because she did anything wrong, but because I couldn't tell who was real anymore. The silence should have felt like peace. Instead, it felt like drowning. I'd lie in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of it had meant anything. The money, the parties, the women, the attention. I had everything people kill for, and all I felt was numb. The city outside never slept, but inside that penthouse felt like a tomb. And the worst part? The money didn't stop bleeding. I had no clue what I was spending. I was getting hit with taxes I didn't understand. Fees, fines. My account manager, some smug guy named Ryan from the bank, kept leaving me voicemails I refused to check. I didn't want to know, because knowing meant facing it. Facing the truth that I wasn't rich anymore. I was just pretending, until the knock on the door changed everything. It was late, nearly midnight. I figured it was delivery or maybe some drunk influencer from upstairs. But when I opened the door, my stomach flipped. Two guys in suits. No smiles. One had a clipboard. The other had the kind of look that said, "You're not gonna like this." "You Kyle Thornton?" the clipboard guy asked. I nodded, suddenly freezing cold. "We're here on behalf of the IRS and Nevada Gaming Commission," he said flatly. "We've tried to reach you multiple times." I barely remember the next few minutes. Something about unreported income, improper filings, suspicions of fraud from the casino side, audits, penalties, potential charges if I didn't cooperate. Charges. That word slapped me harder than anything Selena ever said. Apparently, when you win big, really big, the government doesn't just trust that you'll do the right thing. They watch. They wait. And if you're stupid enough to spend first and ask questions later, they'll gut you like a fish. I felt the walls cave in. The penthouse that once felt like heaven now looked like a prison cell. The men handed me documents, court notices, audit reports. "You've got 30 days, one of them said before walking away. "Or we escalate." And just like that, my fantasy popped. I was no longer the guy who beat the system. I was the system's next meal. I closed the door, sat on the cold marble floor, and just started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was either laugh or lose my F***king mind. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My brain was spinning so fast I thought it might catch fire. The numbers, the debt, the fear. It all slammed into me at once. $10 million. Gone faster than I could say audit. I opened my laptop, heart racing, fingers trembling, and finally logged into my bank account. I hadn't checked it in weeks. I didn't want to know, but now I had to. $1,274,918.44. That was all that was left. I stared at the number, hoping it would magically change. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I was looking at the wrong account. But no, that was it. From 10 million to barely over 1 million. And that wasn't even mine. Taxes hadn't been paid. Fees were stacking. Selena's little shopping addiction? Over 1 million easy. And those luxury investments I made? The business ventures with guys I met at rooftop bars promising triple returns? All of it gone. Vapor. I'd spent money like I had infinity in the bank. But the truth is, money burns way faster when you're trying to buy love, status, belonging, all the things no one sells but everyone pretends they can. I sat there, sweating, whispering to myself, "You still have 1 million. You can come back from this." But even that was a lie, because I wasn't the same man who walked into that casino 6 months ago. I was different now. Jaded, wounded, paranoid, and just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. I got a message request on Instagram, a random account, no profile picture, just one message. "We both know you shouldn't have won that jackpot. Someone's going to fix that." My blood turned to ice. Was it a joke? A threat? I didn't know. I tried to brush it off, but then more messages started popping up. Emails, comments on old posts, even a note slipped under my door. People die every day in Vegas. Don't forget how lucky you were. I went to the police. They said unless someone physically harmed me, they couldn't do much. Probably just online trolls, they said. But it didn't feel like trolls. Felt real. Like someone was watching me. Like someone knew something I didn't. I started sleeping with a kitchen knife under my pillow. Stopped going out. Kept the blinds shut 24/7. I wasn't living, I was hiding. From the government. From the people I thought were friends. From the strangers threatening my life. And from the truth I didn't want to admit out loud. Winning $10 million was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I became a ghost in my own life. I stopped answering the door. Didn't speak to neighbors. Barely ate. I was just existing. Floating through this high-rise tomb while fear kept pressing its hands around my throat. Every sound made me jump. A car backfiring, footsteps in the hallway, even the hum of the fridge. Everything felt like a trigger. Like maybe this was the moment someone would kick the door in and finish what those messages promised. I hired a private security guy named Donnie. Ex-Marine. Thick neck. Dead eyes. He didn't talk much. Just nodded and sat in the lobby all day, reading hunting magazines and watching the cameras I'd installed on every corner of my apartment. It helped. A little. But no amount of muscle could fix what was breaking inside me. Because it wasn't just the fear that was killing me. It was the guilt. The memories started clawing back. Things I'd done. People I'd pushed away. I remembered the night I hung up on my old friend Jamie after he asked to borrow a few grand for his mom's surgery. I told him, "I'm not a charity, dude." I remember the waitress I screamed at because she brought the wrong bottle of wine. I humiliated her, tossed $200 at her feet and said, "Maybe you can take a class or something." I remember deleting my dad's voicemails without even listening. He wasn't perfect, hell, he was barely a dad, but he tried. He reached out after my win. Said he was proud of me. Wanted to talk. I left him on read. Now I couldn't stop hearing his voice in my head. That deep, tired voice saying, "You gotta stay grounded, kid, or the wind'll carry you off." Well, guess what, Dad? The wind didn't just carry me off. It ripped me apart. And then came the worst night of them all. I just stepped out of the shower. Towel around my waist. Steamed up mirror. I looked at myself, really looked, and I didn't even recognize the man staring back. Sunken eyes. Pale skin. A body that looked like it had aged 10 years in 6 months. And then crash. Glass shattering in the living room. I froze. Grabbed my knife. Heart slamming in my chest like a jackhammer. "Donnie!" I screamed. No answer. I crept toward the sound. Legs shaking. Knife clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. The balcony door was open. Wind blowing in. Curtains flapping like ghosts. And on the floor, a rock, with a note tied to it. I picked it up, hands trembling. "You got lucky once. It won't happen again." That's when I realized it wasn't just paranoia anymore. Someone was coming for me, and I was running out of time. I called Donnie 17 times that night. Straight to voicemail. The man I was paying $8,000 a week to sit in my lobby and protect me had disappeared. Gone like vapor. Like he'd never been there at all. I checked the building's security footage, nothing. Blank spaces where his body should have been. I called the company that hired him and guess what? No record of a Donnie ever working for them. No contracts. No invoices. Nothing. It hit me like a train. I never vetted him. Never checked. Just handed him cash and let him in my home. What if he wasn't a bodyguard? What if he was watching me? I ripped every camera out of my apartment that night. Smashed them with a hammer until the floor was littered in plastic guts and wires. I unplugged my phone. Turned off Wi-Fi. Covered every mirror and window. I was losing it. Full-blown panic mode. I didn't trust anyone. Not the cops. Not the building staff. Not even my own reflection. I started keeping a loaded pistol in every room. One under the bed. One behind the toilet. One taped beneath the dining table like I was starring in some knockoff mob movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was my life now. And every second felt like a countdown. Then, the call came. It was a number I didn't recognize. California area code. I almost ignored it, But something made me answer. Maybe curiosity. Maybe madness. A man's voice, smooth and calm, like ice water down your spine. You really think you earned that money? I didn't speak. You think it was luck? Some divine favor? Nah, man. You were a test. A freak accident. That money wasn't yours. My mouth went dry. Who is this? I managed to croak out, but he just laughed. Low, slow, like he had all the time in the world. We're gonna correct the mistake, he said. Soon. Click. The line went dead. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, heart pounding so loud I thought it might explode. I wanted to scream, wanted to run. But where do you go when the enemy is invisible? I had no idea who we was, no idea how they knew my name, no idea what any of it meant. All I knew was one thing. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about payback. Someone thought I took something that didn't belong to me, and they were coming to take it back by any means necessary. I started planning my escape the next morning. Not a vacation, not a trip, a full-blown disappearance. I'd watched enough crime documentaries to know how this worked. Burner phones, fake IDs, cash-only transactions. I wasn't some clueless millionaire anymore. I was a target, and if I stayed in one place too long, I'd be a dead one. Step one was liquidating what I had left. I sold the Escalade, pulled out every dollar I could from my remaining accounts, transferred what little I could hide to an offshore crypto wallet I barely knew how to access. The rest? Cold, hard cash, wrapped in bundles, stuffed in duffel bags. It wasn't much, maybe $600,000 after everything. But it would have to do. I packed light, just the essentials. Burner phones, IDs under a fake name, some clothes, and a loaded .45 in a hidden holster under my jacket. I looked in the mirror before I left. My hands were shaking, but my eyes, they looked like someone who had nothing left to lose. I ditched the penthouse, left the keys, the furniture, the overpriced art. I didn't care anymore. That place was cursed. A golden coffin. I drove through the night, no GPS, no credit cards, no cell signal. I headed east. Arizona, then New Mexico. I paid cash for gas. Slept in the back seat of a rental truck. Ate gas station sandwiches again like the old days. Except this time they didn't taste like struggle. They tasted like safety. I ended up in a nowhere town outside Amarillo, Texas. Population maybe 300. A place with no cameras, no Wi-Fi, and no one asking questions. I found a rundown motel with buzzing neon lights and peeling paint. Paid a guy behind the counter named Earl $2,000 in cash for 2 weeks, under the name Mike Rowe. And then I waited. Every noise outside made my skin crawl. Every knock, every shadow, every unfamiliar voice. It all kept me on edge. I barely slept. The gun never left my side. I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't use the internet. I didn't want the world to find me. But the thing about paranoia, it doesn't need proof. All it needs is silence. And then the silence broke. On the 9th night, around 3 a.m., I heard a click, the sound of a door handle turning. My blood froze. I grabbed the pistol, heart hammering, and crept toward the door. The handle jiggled again, slower this time, deliberate. Someone was testing it. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. And then a voice came through the door. Soft, chilling, familiar. You can't run forever, Kyle. I lost it. I fired 3 rounds through the door without thinking. Boom, boom, boom. Silence. Then footsteps, running. I threw the door open, gun raised, but the hallway was empty. Just smoke from the shots and the distant echo of retreating footsteps. No body, no blood, no face, just a whisper in the dark. And a fresh scar carved deep into my sanity. They'd found me, even here, even now. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was being hunted. The motel manager called the cops, of course. I fed them a lie, said someone tried to break in, that I fired in self-defense, that I didn't see who it was. They didn't press too hard. This was the kind of town where people handled their problems with bullets instead of paperwork. They took my statement, gave me a warning, and told me to keep the noise down next time. But I could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe me. Hell, I didn't even believe me anymore. The walls were closing in. I knew that now. Every step I took was a step deeper into the maze I'd built around myself. And the deeper I went, the more I realized I wasn't escaping anything. I was just circling the drain. That night, I sat in the bathroom with the shower running, not to get clean, but just to drown out the thoughts. I pressed my back against the cold tile, the pistol in my lap, and finally asked myself the question I'd been avoiding since the day I hit that damn jackpot. Why me? Why had I won? Why did that machine spit out my name? Why did $10 million land in the hands of a man who barely knew how to balance a checkbook? And then, I remembered something weird, something I hadn't thought about in months. The night I won, there was this guy, older, gray beard, faded leather jacket. He sat 2 seats down from me, sipping a whiskey neat, not playing, just watching. I didn't notice him until the machine lit up, until the bells started screaming and the crowd rushed in. But he didn't rush in. He didn't cheer. He just smiled, like he knew, like he'd seen it before. And just before security swarmed me, I remember him leaning in, tapping the bar with one crooked finger, and whispering something that got lost in the noise. I couldn't remember what it was. Not until now. Now, in this roach-infested motel bathroom, with everything gone and my life in pieces, the words came back like a ghost dragging chains. Careful, son. The house always gets it back. It hit me like ice water to the face. He knew. He wasn't just some random drunk. He knew what was coming. Maybe he'd lived it. Maybe he was like me. Someone who'd won big and lost even bigger. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the feeling that crept in after. Like maybe I didn't win by chance. Like maybe someone picked me, set me up. Like that whole jackpot was just bait. And now, the trap was closing. My skin started to crawl. My pulse spiked. Because if they gave me that money on purpose, then losing it wasn't a failure. It was the plan all along. Once that thought sank in, there was no turning back. I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. The way that man looked at me. The way he didn't smile like a stranger. He smiled like someone who understood. Like someone who had already watched it happen before. The same spiral. The same loss. The same destruction. What if I wasn't the first? What if I was just another domino in a line of winners who thought they'd beat the system? I didn't sleep at all after that. My eyes burned from exhaustion, but my mind wouldn't quit. I grabbed the keys to the truck I'd rented and just drove. Out of Amarillo, into the desert, past the lights, into pitch black. I drove for hours with no destination, no GPS, just this pressure in my chest that kept telling me, get away, get as far as you can, now. And then, like a sick joke, the truck died, middle of nowhere, engine just cut out, no sputter, no warning, no smoke, just silence. I slammed the wheel, screamed into the darkness, tried restarting it 100 times. Nothing. I popped the hood, but what was I gonna do? I barely knew how to refill windshield fluid. I was stuck, and then I saw it, painted on a faded road sign off the highway, half covered in dirt and bullet holes. You can't run from the house. No town name, no mile markers, just that same damn phrase. My blood ran cold. I grabbed my gun, flashlight, and backpack and started walking down the empty stretch of road, the weight of paranoia dragging behind every step like chains. I walked for maybe 3 miles before I saw the lights. Not headlights, not street lamps, neon. A lone building in the middle of nowhere, glowing like a mirage. Red and yellow lights flickering like they'd been forgotten by time. It looked familiar, too familiar. It was a casino, out here. No billboards, no highways, no reason for it to exist. It shouldn't have been there, but it was. And above the doors, in massive cracked letters, House Edge Casino. I swear to God, my legs almost gave out. That name, that phrase, it was the same one from the message, the same one from the rock, the same one whispered in my nightmares. I felt my stomach twist into knots, every instinct screaming, don't go in. But I did. I stepped through those dusty glass doors, gun tight in my jacket, Every muscle coiled like a spring. And what I saw inside was impossible. It was like stepping into a memory someone else had. The inside of the casino looked like it had been built in the 70s and never updated. Faded carpet with swirling psychedelic patterns, brass railings dulled by decades of smoke, and the kind of dim yellow lighting that made everything feel like a hallucination. But it was lively, not packed, but active. People sat at slot machines, silent, robotic, spinning endlessly like they were trapped in a trance. No music, no cheers, just the click-clack of reels and the occasional dry cough. The air was thick, not with smoke, but with something heavier, something wrong. And then I saw the man, same one from the night I won. The gray beard, the leather jacket, sitting at the same damn bar, sipping the same drink. He didn't look up, didn't flinch, didn't react, like he'd been waiting for me. My pulse thundered as I crossed the casino floor. I didn't speak at first. I just stood next to him, staring, trying to figure out what kind of demon I was looking at. "You came," he said finally, not turning his head. "Didn't think you'd make it this far. You knew," I whispered. "You knew what would happen to me." He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on his drink. "They always do," he muttered. "Who?" I snapped. "Who is they? What is this place?" He finally turned to look at me, and the weight in his eyes nearly buckled my knees. It was like looking into the eyes of a man who had seen too much, who drowned 1,000 times and was still choking on the water. "This place ain't real," he said. "Not in the way you think. It moves, defines people. People who are broken enough to believe in miracles." I didn't understand. "You're saying it follows people?" "No," he said. "It chooses them." He leaned in close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You didn't win, Kyle," he whispered. "You were given that money. Loaned it. Like bait on a hook. And now the line's been tugged." My whole body went cold. "But why?" I asked, voice shaking. "Why me?" He smiled, but it was a dead smile. "Because you fit the mold. Desperate. Isolated. Greedy enough to dream big, dumb enough to think you deserved it. You played your part. And now they want what's theirs." I backed away from the bar. My mind was spinning. None of this made sense. Or maybe it made too much sense. I looked around again, really looked, and saw that none of the people in the casino were smiling. Not one. They were like ghosts. Hollowed out. Spent. And that's when I realized. They weren't playing the games. They were feeding them. The machines didn't want quarters. They wanted souls. And mine was already half gone. I stumbled back from the bar like the floor had just tilted beneath me. My legs were shaking, palms slick with sweat, every cell in my body screaming get out, but my feet wouldn't move fast enough. It felt like wading through quicksand, each step heavier than the last. I pushed through the casino floor, trying to avoid the machines, but they all started lighting up without being touched. Rows and rows of glowing screens blinking jackpot. 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 In red letters that pulsed like a heartbeat. And then the whispers started. Low at first. Like static. Then louder. Dozens of voices, overlapping, echoing from the machines, from the walls, from inside my head. "You took what wasn't yours. The house always wins. You knew the price." I covered my ears, dropped to my knees, trying to shut it out. I screamed, but it felt like the sound was swallowed by the building itself. No one around me reacted. Not the gamblers. Not the staff. Not even the man at the bar. They just kept playing. Like they were stuck on a loop. Like they couldn't leave. And maybe they couldn't. I forced myself up, adrenaline surging, and bolted for the exit. I didn't care what it meant, didn't care if I looked insane, I just needed out. Now. I grabbed the front doors and yanked them open. But what was outside? Wasn't the desert anymore. It wasn't Texas. It wasn't anywhere I recognized. It was just blackness. A void. Infinite. Alive. I staggered back, nearly falling over. The door slammed shut behind me. I turned, hyperventilating, and there, standing dead center of the lobby, was a man in a dark red suit. Immaculate. Tailored. Skin pale, eyes so black they didn't have pupils. He didn't smile. He just watched me, head slightly tilted, like a cat watching a trapped mouse exhaust its final options. "You ran far," he said softly. "But the game always finds its players. Who the F***ck are you?" I spat. He took one slow step toward me. Then another. "I'm the dealer," he said. "And your hand is up." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single poker chip. Jet black. No numbers. Just a golden symbol carved into the center. A house. With no doors. He flicked it at me. I caught it without thinking. And the second I touched it, my vision fractured. Images. Sounds. Screams. Flashes of everyone I'd hurt. Everyone I'd used. The money. The betrayal. The greed. It all came flooding back like a tidal wave of guilt and shame. I saw Selena, Chase, my father, the waitress, Jamie, even the cops I lied to. Every face warped in agony, blaming me. Cursing me. And behind it all, that whisper again. The house always gets it back. When I came to, I was alone. The casino was gone. The desert was back. But my truck? Still dead. And in my pocket? The black chip. Cold as ice. Heavy as sin. I drove the next day with a grip so tight on the wheel, my knuckles split. My heart was thudding like war drums. My ears rang with silence that didn't feel like peace, it felt like a countdown, ticking lower, second by second. The casino was gone. Just vanished. No building. No lights. Not even tire tracks. I circled that area for hours like a madman, desperate to prove I wasn't crazy. I kicked dirt, screamed into the open air, begged the sky to give me back anything that made sense. But there was nothing. Only that chip in my pocket. Jet black. Heavier than anything I'd ever held. I tried throwing it away. Tossed it down a ravine, buried it under rocks, even tried to crush it under the heel of my boot. But every time, it came back. In my pocket. Like it never left. And with it came the dreams. Dark, choking dreams. I'd wake up gasping, covered in sweat, seeing them in my room, the slot machine lights flickering behind my eyelids, the suited man watching from the corner, silent, always silent. His mouth never moved, but I could hear him. The house doesn't forget, Kyle. I knew I was losing my grip. I knew I needed help. So I did the one thing I thought I'd never do again. I called Jamie. Yeah, that Jamie. My old friend from Phoenix. The one I blew off when he needed help for his mom. The one I ghosted the moment money turned me into someone I didn't recognize. I didn't deserve forgiveness. But I didn't have anyone else. He picked up after 3 rings. Holy *T, he said. Kyle? I couldn't speak at first. I just choked. You okay, man? He asked, voice soft now. Concerned. Real. No, I whispered. No, I'm not. I told him everything. Not just about the win, but about what came after. Selena. The threats. The casino. The dealer. The chip that wouldn't leave me alone. I thought he'd hang up. I thought he'd call me insane. But he didn't. He just listened. And when I finally stopped, voice raw, eyes burning, he said the one thing I never expected. You're not crazy, Kyle. That stopped me cold. What? I muttered. He hesitated, then said, you ever hear of the Harrowfield Syndicate? No. What the hell is that? It's not public. Not on Google. But I heard whispers. Back when I was doing some freelance work for a private investigator in Vegas. He said the biggest jackpots, the real ones, the freak wins? They're not random. They're targeted. Like recruitment. I nearly dropped the phone. Recruitment for what? That's the thing, he said. No one knows. But every single winner who got those absurd life-changing payouts? They all vanished. No press. No books. No YouTube tell-alls. Just gone. And suddenly everything clicked. The rock. The messages. The man in the suit. The deal I never agreed to but somehow signed anyway. It wasn't about luck. It wasn't about money. It was about control. I wasn't a winner. I was a pawn. And the game? Was still being played. I drove all night after that call. Didn't care about sleep. Didn't care about food. I just drove, chasing some kind of finish line I couldn't see, like if I kept the wheels spinning, maybe the nightmare wouldn't catch up. But the truth is it was already inside me. And the chip, it never left my pocket. No matter what I did. I dumped it in a river near Albuquerque, watched it sink. 5 hours later, it was back. Sitting on the dashboard like it belonged there. I threw it into a fire pit behind an old gas station, watched the flames lick it red hot. Next morning? In my boot. Not even a burn mark. It was like carrying a curse made of lead. And the more I carried it, the more I started to feel different. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. I'd be driving down a highway and suddenly wonder what it would feel like to jerk the wheel into oncoming traffic. Not out of sadness. Not out of pain. Just curiosity. I'd pass a casino sign and feel this sick tug in my gut, like something was whispering, turn in. Just for a second. One more spin. I kept fighting it. Pushing it down. Reminding myself who I was. Or at least, who I used to be. But that version of me? He was dying. And something else was taking root. I checked into a roadside motel in Kansas. Tiny town. No traffic. No people. Just silence. I bolted the door, shoved furniture against it, unplugged every electronic. I sat in a corner with the pistol in my lap and the chip in front of me on the floor, staring at it, daring it to move. And then, without touching it, I watched it spin. Slow, silent, perfectly balanced. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. It just kept spinning. And as it did, the walls of the room started to shift. Not physically, visually. Like reality was bending at the edges. The wallpaper rippled. The lights pulsed. The floor felt like it was breathing. And from the spinning chip I heard them again. The voices. Debt unpaid. Balance overdue. Play or pay. I grabbed the gun, aimed it at the chip, pulled the trigger, bang, splinters flew. The chip didn't crack. Didn't even move. It just kept spinning. And then it stopped. Dead center. And I swear to God it looked at me. That golden house emblem pointing right at my face, glowing faintly like an eye. That's when I realized something I'd been too scared to admit until that moment. This wasn't about running. This wasn't about hiding. This was about facing it. About finishing what I never should have started. Because this wasn't my life anymore. It was the house's. And it was calling me back. The next morning I didn't eat. Didn't shower. Didn't speak. I just packed. Not like someone running from danger, but like someone walking straight into it. With full awareness. Like a soldier climbing into a trench, knowing the next step might be his last. I took only what mattered. The gun. The cash. And the chip. That cursed, unbreakable, soul-choking chip. I didn't even plan where I was going. I didn't need to. Because when you're part of their game, the board moves around you. By noon, I was back in Nevada. I don't even remember the drive. Just desert. Heat. Static on the radio that sometimes whispered things I didn't want to hear. My own name. My sins. Selena's laugh, warped and echoing like it had bounced off the walls of hell. And then, just like before, it appeared. No road signs. No GPS ping. Just the house edge casino sitting right there on the side of the highway like it had always been there. Like it had been waiting for me. Same flickering neon. Same cracked windows. Same stale air that wrapped around my throat the moment I stepped out of the car. But this time, no other cars in the lot. No guests inside. Just him. The man in the red suit. Standing in the middle of the lobby like a wax figure come to life. Still pale. Still perfectly pressed. Still watching me with eyes darker than midnight. You came back, he said, as if I had a choice. I didn't come to play, I snapped. He smiled barely. No one does. I stepped closer. Pulled the chip from my pocket and tossed it at his feet like a challenge. I'm done. Take it. Take the money. Take all of it. Just let me go. He looked down at the chip, then slowly crouched, fingers curling around it with deliberate, ceremonial care. Not how it works, he whispered. Then how does it work? I shouted, voice echoing off the walls. He stood again, towering now. The game wasn't about the jackpot, he said. It was about what you'd do with it. How far you go. Who you'd become. How much of your soul you'd sell before you realized you had one. I felt the air leave my lungs. This was never about money. It was about corruption. About the test. How many others? I asked, voice hollow. Thousands, he said. Maybe more. Each believing they're the exception. Each falling in their own special way. My head spun. But why? What do you want from us? His eyes glinted like glass over a bottomless well. Nothing you didn't already give. Then he held up the chip and it changed. Melted in his palm, reshaped itself until it wasn't a token anymore, but a mirror. And what I saw staring back at me wasn't human. It was me, but twisted, hungry, violent, greedy, hollow-eyed. A man who betrayed everyone. Who drowned in his own ego. Who sold his decency for status, then begged for grace after the check came due. You think you were a victim, he said, voice silk. But you were the architect. I dropped to my knees. Not from pain. From truth. The final hand had been dealt. And it wasn't a bust. It was AF*King reveal. I don't remember standing up. 1 second I was on my knees, shattered, staring into that cursed mirror that showed the ugliest parts of myself, and the next, I was walking. Not out of the casino. Into it. The man in the red suit didn't stop me. He just turned, slowly, and led the way. No words. No commands. Just the unspoken agreement that this was it. Final round. Final price. We passed through the main hall, empty now, machines still blinking like dying stars. The air was thick with a tension I couldn't explain. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath. We stopped at a single table. Green felt. Gold trim. 2 chairs. 1 dealer's seat. 1 player's. And in the center? A single deck of cards. The man gestured to the seat. Sit. I hesitated. What's the game? I asked. His lips curled upward, not a smile. Something colder. It's always the same game. Life. I sat. The chair felt too big, too small, too rigid, too soft. Everything and nothing at once. Like it was built for someone who no longer existed. He sat across from me, calm, composed. Then he dealt 2 cards face down. One to me. One to him. No chips. No betting. Just this. I stared at my card, hands trembling. What's the point? I asked. You've already won. He tilted his head like he pitied me. This was never about winning. It's about knowing. About owning what you are. Seeing your reflection and not looking away. I turned over my card. It wasn't a king. Not an ace. Not even a number. It was a mirror. Just like the chip. And in it I saw everything. Selena crying, bruised from when I screamed and smashed a wine glass across the room. Jamie's voicemails, 12 of them, begging for a response I never gave. My boss, the one I humiliated over speakerphone when I quit and called him a parasite in front of the whole warehouse. The woman I dated before I got rich, Emma, whose heart I shattered because I thought she was too ordinary. Every moment. Every sin. Every choice. All right there, inside that mirrored card. I looked up. The dealer had turned over his own. It was blank. Empty. What's that mean? I asked. He shrugged. I never play, he said. Only deal. And then he leaned forward. Now choose, he whispered. I swallowed. Choose what? He nodded to the deck. One more card. But this one determines everything. You walk out free. Or you don't walk out at all. I hesitated. Froze. Because deep down I knew this wasn't luck. This was judgment. I reached for the deck. Hand hovering. Fingers twitching. And just before I pulled the card, he said one last thing. Every game has a price. And every debt finds its collector. I pulled. I flipped. I screamed. The card didn't have a symbol. Not a number. Not a suit. Not even a mirror this time. It had my name. Cal Thornton. Etched in blood-red ink across a jet-black surface, the letters pulsing like veins under skin. And beneath my name, a single word. Forfeit. The moment I read it, the entire room began to shift. The table buckled. The lights above flickered into seizure-like spasms. The carpet curled in on itself like it was alive. The air turned thick, syrupy, too heavy to breathe. I tried to stand. Couldn't. My legs were glued to the chair. The dealer watched me unmoved. Like this was just protocol. Like he'd seen it 1,000 times before. What does it mean? I choked. You already know, he said. You lived the meaning. I felt it before I saw it. Something rising behind me. A presence. Tall. Towering. Made of nothing but heavier than stone. It didn't breathe. It pulled. Like gravity itself had come to collect. No. I screamed, thrashing in the chair. I didn't know. I didn't *king know. You knew enough, the dealer said, calmly folding his hands. The thing behind me inched closer. The heat of it, unbearable. Like regret made flesh. I begged. I pleaded. I'll give it back. I'll give it all back. Just let me go. He finally leaned forward, eyes narrowing. There's nothing to give back. It's already spent. And I knew then he didn't mean money. He meant me. The chip, the jackpot, the spiral, it was never about fortune. It was a trade. A slow exchange of soul for sensation. Of self for delusion. I didn't lose my life in one big mistake. I lost it in 1,000 tiny choices. Every time I ignored a call for help. Every time I used someone and called it success. Every time I let greed drown out guilt. Those were the bets. And now, the payout had arrived. The presence touched my shoulder. And everything stopped. The lights. The room. My breath. Silence. Pure, awful silence. And then, flash. Like a blink. I was somewhere else. Same table. Same room. But now, I was on the other side. His side. The dealer's. Standing. Wearing the red suit. Staring at a new man sitting across from me. Confused. Hopeful. Hungry. He looked up. Is this the gold rush machine? He asked. And without thinking, without feeling, without choice. I smiled. And whispered. Careful, son. The house always gets it back. I don't know how long I've been here. Days? Weeks? Years? Time doesn't move in this place the way it does in the world you know. It stretches. Folds. Loops. I'm trapped inside the rhythm of the deal. The ritual. The endless carousel of souls who think they've stumbled into luck when really they've been summoned. I wear the suit now. Perfect fit. Tailored not to my body but to my penance. My job isn't to convince. It's not even to tempt. It's just to watch. To deal the cards. To offer the illusion of control and witness as another fool takes the bait, walks into the jaws, surrenders without even realizing they're bleeding. And every time someone sits across from me, every time I see that same wide-eyed hope in their face, I feel that thing deep inside me twitch. That last flicker of what used to be me. Cal Thornton. But he's fading. With each hand he erodes. With each lost soul I become more like them. I don't sleep. Don't eat. I don't even breathe. This place has no clocks. No exits. Just flickering lights and machines that feed on desperation. And the others? The ones like me? They're here too. Walking the halls. Dealing cards. Running tables. Souls turned to shadows, hosts for the house, bound to the game they once thought they could beat. I catch glimpses of them sometimes. Selena. Jace. That bodyguard Donnie who was never what he said he was. We're all part of the ecosystem now. Maintaining balance. Feeding the house. I know what you're thinking, how do I know all this? Because memory is the one thing they don't take. That's the final twist of the knife. You remember everything. You carry the weight of every sin you made before the fall, and now you watch others follow the same path, screaming warnings behind eyes that can't speak. You want to stop it. Want to reach through and pull them back. But you can't. You're just a dealer now. And your job is to keep the game going. Until the next fool walks in. Until the next name is called. Until the next chip is tossed on the table and the wheel spins once more. Round and round. Forever. And if you're hearing this story, if you're watching it on some screen, reading it late at night, wondering if it could be true, maybe you should ask yourself something. Have you ever had luck so good, it felt like a trap? If you have, if you ever hear the words, the house always gets it back. Run. Don't play. Don't bet. Don't sit down. Because once you do, the dealer never forgets your face. They always ask the same thing in the end. Can I win? And I always answer with a smile, that's not mine. That depends. What are you willing to lose? Because that's the trick, isn't it? The game never starts with the big things. No one walks in and hands over their soul on day one. That would be too obvious. No, first it takes your sleep. Then your peace. Then your pride. Your kindness. Your honesty. One by one, piece by piece, until all that's left is the skin of a person and the hollow inside where your choices used to live. And people? They'll trade their soul for so much less than they think. A taste of power. A hit of love. A chance to feel important. I've seen men sign it all away for 100,000. Women for attention. Entire families ruined over the promise of something better. Not the thing itself, just the illusion. And when it's over, they come here. Right here. To me. They sit across from this green table and blink at the cards, unaware they've already lost. That the moment they took the first offer, the first shortcut, the first deal, they were marked. Like I was. And I don't get to stop it. I don't get to cry. I don't get to warn them. I just deal. And deal. And deal. Until the house decides I've served enough time. If that ever happens. But I want you to remember something, whoever you are. This story, it's not just a warning. It's a mirror. Because maybe you're like I was. Maybe you're already at the edge, already thinking about that next bet, that quick score, that fantasy of being plucked from nothing and turned into something. Maybe you think you're different. That you'd handle it better. That you'd never fall like I did. But the house? It doesn't need you to believe. It just needs you to sit down. So go ahead. Spin the wheel. Take the card. Chase the jackpot. Just remember. The house doesn't want your money. It wants you. And when the lights go out and the cheering fades and you're left in the dark wondering how you got here, you'll feel the chip in your pocket. Heavy. Cold. Eternal. Because the game never ends. And the dealer? The dealer never leaves. I'm still here. Waiting.